the point is, how do you imagine the future? I mean, of the Syscoin Bridge? It will be like connected to several blockchains, or do you say, okay, we connect only to 2 or 3 big blockchains and the rest will come later on, or will it have like some sort of one-click bridging? It's really interesting to see your point of view over there.
So that starts to get into some of our cutting edge research we're doing. For one, a blockchain foundry may stand up a solution and say, if you would like to have one-click in-wallet transactions for a little bit of a higher fee, we can upfront that liquidity and move you over to the blockchain, right? And so that's a more of a, less decentralized but more convenient option. And if users want to take the decentralized option, they always could. And the other thing is, so connecting other blockchains, you have to start to generalize, right? You can't have specific implementations, which we've done today. But the generalizing, then you're talking about general purpose computing, right? General purpose computing opens up the Pandora's box in a lot of ways, because technically it's challenging, because you now have to prove calculations are correct somehow without actually reproducing every calculation on every node, right? That defeats the purpose if you're doing something like that. So then you're really talking about something like not really optimistic rollups, which are very specific to Ethereum and EVM execution, but you're talking about zero knowledge proofs to be able to do general purpose computing in batches. So there's only 2 examples of what that means out there. There's a Caro language, and then there's Zinc by Matter Labs, and StarkX created Caro. Those are 2 general purpose attempts to create smart contracts, or general purpose computing, you can say, any computing, but make it provable, right, to the external viewer by having a constant verification cost, right? The verification cost doesn't change if you have, it may change logarithmically, but it's very constant. You can think of it as constant pretty much. So 1 million transactions being verified by a proof is pretty much the same as 10,000 or 100,000, but it's one verification across all those transactions. So if you do something like that, you could start to generalize and say, there's a Tron blockchain, and it's wanting to side chain into Syscoin so it can do very cheap and fast transactions. We have validators which can run the proof, zero knowledge proofs, which are actually provers. The provers will be calculating these calculations and defining, okay, well, if it's the Tron blockchain, this goes into this transaction on Syscoin blockchain, zero knowledge proof, right? And the Ethereum one will be a different chain ID. Here's the Ethereum version, and the smart contracts on Tron and Ethereum can verify that that's correct. So when you do transitions on states to make sure people can exit as a sidechain, you always have the data there to be able to make your provable case. So Syscoin almost becomes, at that point, if you do something like that, like a Polkadot, or what EOS wanted to do was have a very efficient cost model on executions of smart contracts. So they created a CPU and memory marketplace. And the idea was the efficiency of the market is going to drive efficiency of the cost of how many calculations per second per hardware you can do, right? That was the attempt of what EOS tried to do, right? But we saw there was gaming happening on the markets, on the CPU and memory markets, because they were not 100% tied to the direct costs of doing those calculations. And there's only 30 or 40 nodes at once, right? So it's not very decentralized. Where zero knowledge proofs takes all that away, and you only need one prover. But to make things better, you can have you can cycle through provers, and the cost of the execution is pretty much constant, because it's zero knowledge proofs are made of gates, and the gates are in a circuit. The gate is pretty much the same whether you execute one opcore or the other. It's still a gate. The only thing that changes is the complexity of the circuit, so how many gates you need to execute.
Sure.
I know it's getting technical, but essentially you could think of the gates as a very general purpose execution layer, right? And whatever it's executing, it doesn't really matter. It's a program. It could be any program. but the cost of that execution is constant, whether you're on one hardware or the other. So you have a way more efficient strategy for figuring out the cost of doing something, and therefore the pricing gets more efficient. So it may get more expensive or cheaper. And now you could think of that as like if these were miners, these validators were thought as miners, the miners would have a really good idea of the economic incentives to do such actions. So therefore, they can increase their hardware to do more, or decrease their hardware to do less, and likely will incentivize people to create more hardware so they can make more profits. So it's all directly tied to each other, and that's what EOS try to do. And Polkadot tries to have a generalized interoperability solution for all these blockchains to do scaling, right? But it doesn't. It's trying to do it through like fraud proofs and bonding and penalizing, whereas zero knowledge proofs is black box, do a calculation, it can't be wrong, right? It's 100%. It's 100% guaranteed, as long as there's some type of check around the state transition. So it kind of concentrates the problem on the transition of states between every time these provers make calculations, rather than whether the prover is correct or not, which is a big delineation. It's a big difference, right?
Jack, you've mentioned Polkadot and EOS and other coins. I mean, if we watch now CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, for example, Syscoin, right? Do you see Syscoin as an underdog and say, okay, we can compete with them, or we can be better in a few years, or it's just like you feel comfortable to be an underdog for now and say, or you're a little bit angry and say, hey, why does Syscoin doesn't get the attention what we really deserve, right? What's your point of view over there? It's like interesting to hear from you.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you're not going to compete against hundreds of thousands of developers all plugging away at an ecosystem. You try to plug into that ecosystem, right? And you don't want to reproduce the wheel, because you're taking into account all of those hours put in. So you want to plug into that system, and that's what a lot of projects they're trying to. They're either giving up, or they're moving into plugging into that ecosystem. So we have clients that have their own blockchain, but now they've given up because they've seen tea leaves are telling them they need to move to the actual ecosystem to be relevant.
Sure.
So that means that you either are part of that ecosystem or you plug into that ecosystem. So really, Ethereum is the subset of general purpose computing, and Bitcoin is a subset of store of value. So Syscoin is thought of as the subset of store value plus general purpose computing, because of the extensions, right? Because we're merged with Bitcoin, so you get the security, but we also, main use case of Syscoin is to provide utility for payments. And so we allow that for Ethereum to bring them over trustlessly and offer that payment model. Now, the stuff I mentioned with zero knowledge proofs, you can essentially do smart contracts on Syscoin by offering a layer 2 ZK rollup solution. Like, there's probably only 3 or 4 ZK rollup solutions out there. They're very specific, but there's no general purpose ZK rollup solution today. We're working with some of the smartest people in that ecosystem to think of a way to make a general purpose ZK rollup sidechain for Ethereum such that it's working off the blockchain. And the problem is the data availability needs to be in consensus, and that's where Syscoin can help. It could be almost like a general availability layer on the validator, the deterministic masternode layer, to not only Ethereum but other blockchains as well. You start with Ethereum, and if there's appetite, you can do the same exact thing with other blockchains because it's the same model. So that you can do smart contracts, but our focus is on payments right now, because the execution model, like I said, the execution model is unique and it's more efficient than anything Ethereum community can do. And you have to find a way to plug in, otherwise you won't be relevant. So I would consider almost 95, 96, maybe not higher than that percentage of blockchains are not relevant because they're either not plugging in or they're trying to escape value by not providing value. They're trying to say, move over to our blockchain and do everything on our blockchain because we have EVM too, rather than we're offering a solution to Ethereum, and you always will consider Ethereum home, but you will use our blockchain for utility. So
Really,
that's the difference.
it's really interesting point of view over there. Yes, I've saw Syscoin the Bridge. It's actually amazing. People should look and dive it deep into it. I mean, Syscoin.org, right?
Yeah.
It's the homepage of Syscoin. You should definitely check it out. The next question is, man, we've we've reached 1 trillion market cap like yesterday, right? So the point is the governments are pointing now to the stable coins. And in your opinion, what can happen if for example, the government says, hey, Tether, we will ban it. Or for example, I don't know, the government of the United States say, hey, we will ban it now. So the point is, will these bans affect Syscoin or the Syscoin Bridge, or you say, okay, if Tether will be banned or another stablecoin will be banned, it is like, does it bother you or not, or does it
No,
thing?
we're giving Tether the solution actually, because we're actually I'm talking, we talked to their CTO of Bitfinex and the Tether guys, and we like what they're doing, right? It makes a lot of sense, and they are pretty, um, Paula goes on Twitter and posts what's happening when he mints new coins and what the reason is. So I think it's important. He does offer that transparency, but if the regulators come to him and say, we don't know where the money is, who owns the money, blacklists aren't good enough, right?
Mhm.
You can do all the address monitoring in the world, but there's mixers out there. There's Tornado Cash contracts that can enter and do mixing and all this stuff, right? We need to have some assurance, like that you're working under the same money regulated black box that fiat works under, because we've solved the problem over maybe 15, 20, 30, 40 years with fiat. And crypto is not solved. So in order for us to avert the tax evasion, the sort of terrorist funding operations, we need to do this. We need to know every transaction is valid. They
Okay.
can't do that right now. So we actually offer a solution. We say, if you move your Tether, for the ones that need to be compliant, if you're talking about Tether moving from Binance to Coinbase, that doesn't matter. It's those KYC gates in between. But if you're talking about paying in something in Tether for proof, like some type of point of sale
Mhm.
or service, you need to have the merchant assured that it's valid, and it's been
Okay.
checked somewhere along the line. So you either use a centralized service, like there's the Prime Trusts of the world and Fireblocks, which Celsius is using, right, to do KYC ML and then offer custody, or you try to do things a little bit more decentralized and let the users control their own funds.
Right.
Because if a central company is holding the funds, there's risk of theft, right? Whereas if you hold your funds, there's less risk. However, you do need you do need those checks. So we offer the ability for you to notarize those transactions. If you enable that with
Mhm.
Tether on the Syscoin blockchain, now you can move from ERC20 to Syscoin's SPT layer. You can enable the notarization functionality
Mhm.
and then stand up a service where every transaction has to go through that service, and you double check the addresses, you double check that the addresses are KYC'd, and the wallet is legitimate, and
Mhm.
then you process the transaction with a simple signature that gets put on every transaction. So it's
Okay.
fairly scalable. Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear about that. So let me ask you a question. For example, there is a terrorist organization. Say, okay, we wanna move our funds from Desert to the Syscoin Bridge. So basically, the Syscoin Bridge or the Syscoin Foundation, doesn't matter what, doesn't it doesn't affect you guys, right? It's because you basically built this kind of a bridge. And are the governments able to say, hey, Jack, or hey, Syscon Foundation, you did this just like a bridge, you helped the terrorists to bridge their coins, now we can sue you? It's this possible?
No, not really. I mean, anyone can be, and the bridge is operational, it's decentralized, so they would need to shut down the blockchains for them to do that. They can say, you can tell foundations stop advertising it, stop posting about it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But we take every step and every precaution to be compliant, right? And make sure that, you know, it's really a war, right? It's not a short fight. It's a long-term battle to get these people to understand this is the new way that business is going to work. And like, I totally understand if you have terrorism, you have this stuff, it's a real threat, right? But the other real threat is the centralized policy of fiat. That's a bigger threat to me than any type of terrorist funding or anything like that. You know, the free market takes care of itself almost, right? But we understand the position we're in, so we offer that solution where, okay, well, we give the opportunity for these people to be compliant, and if it's a stable coin, stablecoin has a central point of attack. It's the person running the stablecoin. So you wouldn't go after the bridge. You would go after who's running that stablecoin, allowing for that to happen, because they're the ones that need to make sure the on and off ramps are checked. But if things are being settled just in that currency on crypto, and it's not even being cashed out, or it's being mixed and cashed out somehow, it's not a trivial problem to solve if it's completely decentralized. So, you know, for those stable coins, they already are a central point of attack. You might as well check every transaction and make sure that it's valid, because you're already doing that when it's coming off the blockchain. So you might as well just, you know, enable that. That it's something that just hasn't been done, and it is a viable solution to someone like Tether. So, you know, we're speaking to them, and I think, you know, once 4.2 comes out, we'll have the wallets and stuff like that. Right now, it's just not very accessible. So once it becomes more accessible, and there's SDKs and wallets out there to drive a nicer experience, then you're able to demo your stuff. And when you demo your stuff, people can see the value, right? And that's when I think we'll get a lot more adoption on some of these things that we built.
Yeah, the answer makes sense. I like it a lot. Jag, the next question is the tokenization, right? I mean, there are some coins are offering that tokenization, stuff like that, right? So will it play a big role in the near future, the tokenization on the Syscoin platform? Because we see actually Load did the Load, right? That's the correct name of the what was launched on the Syscoin Bridge?
No, it's a silver and gold backed stablecoin ecosystem.
Yeah, correct. Do you guys plan to expand your operation with the Syscoin platform with the tokenization, or what's the plan?
Yeah, again, think about the big picture, right? There's so many blockchains, and they all try to do the same stuff. They all say we want to do smart contracts. We started in 2013, and we saw that like Bitcoin was payments, but it stopped being payments as soon as we realized that the core system of the Bitcoin blockchain is not going to be able to scale. So we felt being a solution and infrastructure for payments is really serving 90 or more % of the market. Because when you think about crypto, you're thinking about, I hold my crypto, I pay for crypto. And then there's all the stuff in between, like DeFi and smart city IoT stuff, which is that's contract execution. That's general purpose computing, right? That's where Ethereum comes in with sharding and 2.0 and zero knowledge rollups, which we can help with, but we won't do that right now. It's on our roadmap. But for now, just payments, that's the main thing. So when someone is talking about payments, then they have the option. Do I do an Ethereum or do I do it on Bitcoin? Bitcoin doesn't have an asset infrastructure. They do have colored coins, right? There's CallU, there's a few other ones, there's Omni, and they try to do colored coin assets built on Bitcoin. But again, that's still susceptible to the bandwidth that's on Bitcoin, right? And again, it's not, you can't do ZDAG or anything like that, right? It's all off chain, so payment channels, Lightning networks, that sort of stuff maybe will come out of that. With us, it's an on-chain solution, and we have enough bandwidth to support the global population if everyone was to use it. And the other thing is you wouldn't do an Ethereum because, again, it's an account-based model, and it won't be as efficient. The execution model won't be as efficient as the UTXO model. So some of the solutions on Plasma actually convert the account system to a UTXO system, right? Because of the efficiency gains and the fact that you can catch fraudsters when you try to exit. But again, that conversion is not seamless, and the native model, execution model, makes a lot of difference. So we offer the native execution model of UTXO, and so there's a place where we fit in. Whereas a lot of the other blockchains trying to do maybe payments as well, they take either cut corners by saying we will do a DPoS model where there's less validators, and they all ultimately say that this is the finality of the blockchain, or there's even some cutting edge research saying we will do zero knowledge proofs, and that's the blockchain itself. There's nothing else, just zero knowledge proof. And so they're all like, that one is more complex, and we don't know if that ends up working out. But right now, under the Bitcoin model, which is proven and tested, the UTXO model is efficient, and you can move all the transactions off the blockchain, and the fees will be a lot less than anything that Ethereum can do.
Sounds interesting. The point is, you've mentioned Syscoin as a payment, as a payment coin, right? So the point is, do you see maybe in 1, 2, maybe 5 years, Syscoin as a store of value like Bitcoin, because we have a maximum supply of 888 millions? Is this accurate, right?
Yep. Well,